Karli VanCleave, 21 Investigates.
21 Investigates has obtained the disciplinary records for Fort Wayne Police Sergeant Joshua Hardup. Those records say he was involved in 4 prior police vehicle crashes, one of those resulting in suspension. Here's my 21 Investigates report. The race for the Fort Wayne mayor seat is ramping up tonight, and 2 Republican city councilmen want the nomination, Tom Didier and Jason Arp. Tonight, I sat down with them and asked them, what do they care about? What makes them different, and do they have what it takes? Take a look. Going through airport security can definitely be a hassle. Between emptying your pockets, taking off your shoes, and sorting your liquids, it all happens for a reason. Here's my 21 Investigates report. At Tuesday night's City Council meeting, some members were pressing TRAW Executive Director Joel Benz, wondering why the county hasn't stepped in to help yet. Well, I took a look at the data to find out how many 911 calls are happening outside our city limits. Today, I took that data to county commissioners. Take a look. After a weekend of severe weather, we're taking a closer look at tornado sirens across 21 country. Should you rely on them, and are they effective? Here's my 21 Investigates report. And this tornado siren right here off East Rudisill Boulevard is one of at least 8 tornado sirens across Allen County that is not functioning. Yeah, Brian, Krista, the crash report says Fort Wayne Police Sergeant Josh Hardup hit a man walking across the street. That man was identified as Henry Najeski, and he is in critical condition tonight. It happened right here behind me on the corner of Main and Calhoun Street downtown. I do have some additional details, and they're included here in my 21 Investigates report. A warm spring day at the park turned into a tragedy on Wednesday. People tell me there were children playing on this very swing set when shots were fired. A playground turned into a crime scene. This is the crash report. It says Fort Wayne Police Sergeant Josh Hardup hit a man while he crossed Main Street. That man is Henry Najeski, and he is in critical condition tonight. Here's more details in my 21 Investigates report. According to this crash report obtained by 21 Investigates, police say 42-year-old FWPD Sergeant Josh Hardup was driving an unmarked police vehicle when he hit 52-year-old Henry Najeski as he was walking across the street. The report says Hardup, quote, did not make a statement at this time to police. Sergeant Jeremy Webb told me over the phone the officer has rights and will give an official statement about the crash sometime today or tomorrow. Webb says Hardup was on duty during the crash but wasn't responding to a call. Webb says Hardup did stop and render aid to Najeski. A witness tells us when Najeski was hit, he buckled and flew to the ground and was unconscious and unable to talk. The report says he suffered an injury to his head. I asked Webb about this. He told me this wasn't a high-speed collision and how the man fell on the pavement caused the injury. Webb said, quote, you just can't control how people fall. He stressed it was very slow impact. In the crash report listed under factors for Hardup, it says failure to yield right-of-way. But the report goes on to say, quote, without a statement from driver 1 or the non-motorists, investigators are looking for video to determine where and when the pedestrian crossed. Webb says this was an unfortunate accident and the officer feels horrible. Webb says Hardup was back at work today, but the crash is being investigated by the Accident Review Board. You can find more details in this story on our website. For 21 Investigates, I'm Karli VanCleave. Yeah, Brian, could the red flag law have prevented the Kendallville shootout? An IU law professor I talked with last week says yes, while the Kendallville Police Department says they didn't see a serious enough threat to use the law in the first place. Take a listen. Nearly 11 hours of gunfire coming from an upstairs apartment in Kendallville. The shooter, 60-year-old Michael Emmons, died by his injuries.
For the last 2.5 years, we've had contact with him about 10 times.
Kendallville Police Chief Lance Waters says Emmons was a familiar face to them.
None of those incidents ever rose to the level of being criminal.
21 Investigates obtained 10 complaints showing Emmons made threats to the community, displayed erratic behavior, trespassed onto school property, and he had weapons. Friday, I talked with a law professor who believes Indiana's red flag law could have prevented the shootout. The law says once a person is deemed dangerous to themselves or others, they cannot possess, own, rent, buy, or sell a firearm. Did you guys ever consider using the red flag law?
We never had any indication that Mr. Emmons possessed firearms.
Chief Waters says the law was never initiated because they didn't know he had any guns, only other weapons such as a bow and arrow and a knife.
In a search warrant, you have to indicate what you're searching for and the area where that item might be located. We can't say because someone has a bow and arrow that they have firearms.
Waters says when someone is a danger to themselves mentally or physically, officers can issue a crisis intervention. Then they'll be detained and booked into a hospital for 24 hours. Why wasn't that utilized?
We never got to the point where we felt that we had enough to even do the CIT.
Why was that? I guess, you know, for people.
Because the incidents weren't that serious. Mr. Emmons was never putting himself or anyone else in danger. The closest we came to it was when he was on school property with a knife.
He says the department never saw a legitimate threat with Emmons, only evidence of mental health struggles.
Just because someone is having a mental episode doesn't mean that we could go search their residence to see if they have firearms. They're still protected under the Fourth Amendment.
And we are still working to find out just how many weapons were removed from Emmons' apartment. We do have video showing several guns, bows, and even swords coming out of that apartment. I did reach out to the Indiana State Police, and they said they are still working with the prosecutor's office to find out this information, and they'll be releasing it to us when they can. For 21 Investigates, I'm Karli VanCleave.
That's right, Linda. I've been telling you about the paramedic shortage for months now. And getting into the passenger seat of a TRA ambulance was perhaps the best way to see firsthand the impact of the shortage. Paramedics say they're overworked and underpaid. They love their job, but they're not afraid to say they need more help now.
When you call 911, Michael Manns is ready to respond.
Medic 102 on command.
Ready to be by your side.
We'll take good care of him, okay? All right.
Caring for you when you need it most.
We're not going to get assigned a call.
Okay. Manns has been working in emergency medical services for 27 years.
So this is what you guys track your calls with, correct?
Yes.
And I had him show me exactly what it's like on the streets.
Each of these is an ambulance.
For a first responder working at a time when only 22 paramedics are on the streets. There should be 38. They're short 16 paramedics per day.
I enjoy being a paramedic, and I like helping and working with people. There are times where it's very intense, and times where, you know, things don't go well.
When TRA is too busy to respond immediately, dispatchers call for a TRA level 0.
County EMS, TRA level 0 on back pain.
That's when they rely on county agencies to step in and take the call. That's happened nearly 500 times in just the past 2 months. But Manns doesn't need to see the numbers. He already knows there's a problem.
It's very stressful. It's very stressful for the dispatchers. It's very stressful for the medic.
An ambulance is supposed to get to a scene within 8.5 minutes. But Manns says because of the shortage, it can take up to 20 minutes when calls are at a peak and staffing is low.
The response time of that length is a big deal here because that's not the expectation. That's not what should happen, and we want to fix that, and that's not okay.
For months, I've talked with key leaders about what it will take to solve this problem. New Executive Director Joel Benz.
My intent is to provide updates to the community.
Former Union President Ian Case.
This needs to be an issue that's front and center.
City Councilman Russ Yale.
The job of TRA is to make sure that the public's protected.
And now the person whose job it is to keep response times down. Chief Operating Officer Mike Bureau.
I think they'd seen some paramedics leave prior to me getting here last September. I think that had continued to go on. I think some of that was just frustration with COVID.
The contractor hired Bureau as COO in September of 2020. Before that, he held the same position in South Dakota.
The public is counting on us. The employee group is counting on me to keep things moving in the right direction.
Bureau is responsible for making sure TRAW stays at or under that 8.5-minute response time benchmark. And there's some work to do. In the past month, they've only hit that goal 70% of the time, leading to fines from the TRAW board for non-compliance.
As a contractor, that's a two-edged sword, so to speak, right? Because on one aspect, I fully understand the reason to hold us accountable, and I'm in no way disappointed in that, and we've been supportive of them holding us accountable to that contract and that contractual requirement.
This year alone, the contractor has faced more than $1 million in fines.
We do need to be held accountable in these contracts. It's just unprecedented time. When these contracts were written, we weren't looking at coming out of a global pandemic.
Bureau says paramedics and EMTs need hands-on training, and the pandemic forced that training to go virtual.
So when they weren't able to get on the ambulances and they weren't able to get into classrooms, we began to see that pipeline shorten up.
He says they started losing more paramedics than they were gaining.
It's difficult to lead during a time like this, right? We all just kind of have to rely on one another.
To help with that, they've initiated a new program called Earn to Learn, paying new hires to train as they work toward getting certified. On the streets, Mans is anxious to see those new recruits start.
The shortages are everywhere. I mean, it's a nationwide problem. We have our own issues here locally that are in addition to or also with that.
One that needs to be addressed and solved. And Mans is not ready to give up yet. He knows he's doing important work. He simply needs more help.
So I don't see myself as a hero. It's not for everybody, for sure, but it is a very rewarding career.
Well, TRAW is still looking to hire paramedics, EMTs, or even people with no experience at all. You can apply for their new Earn to Learn program. It's a 10-week-long training program where you will get paid to learn and eventually become a certified EMT. I'll include a link to where you can apply in this story on FortWaynesNBC.com. It's floodwater like this that's leaving families like Kamala Haas and her daughter without a home right now. In fact, this water filled her neighborhood just last night. And now the two of them are in the hospital because her daughter has a disability and that's the only place she can get care. It began as a usual night for Kamala Haas and her daughter.
I was doing laundry, watching TV. I had just put Lauren down for the night.
But that quickly changed after the storm. What happened?
Well, the rains yesterday, it kind of flooded this 4 houses out.
She says the rain just wouldn't stop.
Before I knew it, this was flooded.
And suddenly she heard a noise.
I thought it was the washing machine because I kept hearing the water, but no, it was the waterfall coming in my basement.
She looked in her basement and
it was all the way up to here and was still bubbling up.
How did you feel when you saw it all?
I won't lie, I just started crying and I didn't know what to do. I had hit panic mode.
She says she knew they had to leave because her 16-year-old daughter, Lauren, has a disability. She needs constant care.
She has a gene deletion, chromosome addition.
Haas grabbed as much of her medical supplies as she could, but when she walked outside... So was this all water?
This was all water up to here.
Oh my goodness. As far as she could see, water flooding her neighborhood. Is this all flooded too?
Yep, it was all the way back.
Haas says they called the police and the fire department helped them get out of their house safely. They stayed at the fire station until they were able to get dry clothes. What kind of care does your daughter need that you can't give her right now in this home?
Well, she has the special bed. She has to be up in bed. She has a trach, so she has to be on a vent.
They had nowhere to go. So her next problem, where will Lauren get the care she needs?
Going to a hotel room, it just wouldn't work because there's not enough outlets.
the hospital, and that's where they'll remain until her home inspection is complete. What is keeping you going?
Family and the community. What I thought that, I just live here and people think I'm the crazy lady that doesn't ever come out of the house. But it wasn't true. I mean, everybody was down here, people I didn't even know.
And Haas tells me they've been in contact with the Red Cross, just looking for somewhere to stay. But right now, she thinks the hospital is the best place because that's where her daughter can get the medical care she needs. For now, reporting, I'm Karli VanCleave. In us tonight, I'm Karli VanCleave. Brian and Krista have the week off. Southwest Airlines canceling at least 70% of its flights Monday. With the chaos continuing today, more than 60% of flights canceled. Most major airlines have canceled or delayed thousands of flights. ABC's Zareen Shah is in Los Angeles with the latest. A driver in Wisconsin got an early Christmas present last week, a life-saving rescue from emergency crews who sprang into action when she veered into an icy retention pond in Milwaukee. Michelle Four reports. And thanks for joining us. I'm Karli VanCleave. You'll hear more about that local apple orchard in just a moment. But first, let's take a look at our holiday weather. Right now, you're taking a live look at downtown Fort Wayne. A nice, cool night. We had a beautiful Sunday. Nikki, what are we going to be seeing for Labor Day? Well, the bitter cold experienced over the holiday weekend has claimed the life of an Allen County man. The family of 81-year-old William Gillen found him outside of his home this past Friday when those temperatures were below zero. An autopsy determined he died by hypothermia, and the manner of his death is an accident. Good evening, I'm Karli VanCleave. Welcome to Fort Wayne's NBC Weekend News. We need to warn you first, some of the images in this next story are extremely graphic and may be hard to hear or see. Today, Ukrainian President Zelensky is calling for even more pressure on Russia with assistance to Ukrainians in defense as well as sanctions.